Make an Impact podcast presented by the American Association of Suicidology. I'm Chris Cosentino, and today we're joined by the winner of the 2023 Paul G. Quinnett Lived Experience Writing Competition, Phoenix Wang. Welcome to the podcast, Phoenix.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. So excited.
So, congratulations, and thank you so much for sharing your story. The question everyone is asking right now, what are you going to do with the $1,500 cash prize?
Well, I'm a student and also a single parent, so they'll probably go to groceries and Christmas presents.
Excellent. Very cool. Now, before we jump into your submission and your story, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what do you do when you're not writing award-winning stories? Let's hear it.
Sure. So I'm from Long Island, New York. Actually, I just moved into Queens, so I guess I'm a real New Yorker now. And I'm a student studying to get my master's in social work. And I'm also working as a social work as well with a program called Head Start, and they help children who are underrepresented get a head start in school. And so I do that. And I'm also a parent to my 8-year-old son. And that's about it. What I like to do is like to just be with friends and read books and write. That's essentially it.
Well, that was going to be my next question. I mean, your story was so beautifully written. It's inspiring. It's a little gut-wrenching at times. It's raw. And I'm reading this, I'm like, this is a professional writer. I'm just curious to know, like, have you written stories in the past? Have you shared stories?
No, it's although it's been my dream to become to write a memoir. You know, that's one of the dreams I have. But for now, I've just been practicing writing, and another dream I have is to have a one-person show. And so I go out to various bars and stages and do my open mic for 5 minutes and give my little rendition of funny thing that happened to me, you know.
That's excellent. That's very cool. Very cool. Now, where did you hear about the writing competition, and what really inspired you to want to make an impact and share your story?
Well, I don't know how I originally found out of it, but I've always been curious about AAS and their mission, and I just knew that there needs to be some kind of voice for people who have these kinds of experience, and this is the only place that I found that voice for people. And so I decided to just make my pitch into it and see what happens. It was like you said, it was very cathartic for me to write it and to just tell anyone what I've experienced. And it's although it could be sometimes hard to write, it's more cathartic than anything else.
It's amazing. I had the absolute honor in reading all 125 of the stories when they were submitted, and every single story powerful in a different way and inspirational in a different way. And the through line, I guess, that consistent message throughout was writing becoming a source of therapy for folks. And I was curious to know, like, for you individually, specifically, what, after you write your story and you submit it, what was that feeling like? What, did you feel that oof, a weight has been lifted off your shoulders? Or I'm curious, when you pour your heart out and share something so personal,
Right.
what goes through your mind after you share it?
Living, like, I feel like I have chronic suicide, and living with this, I guess, illness is, it's really hard. It's hard to figure out what's real and what's not real, and how to make sense out of what you're going through, and if it is, if there's any meaning or weight to what you're going through. And so what writing has done for me is allowed me to like come up with this meaning and bring forth a sense of um, not only weight, but like just a reality that couldn't be there before. Like for me, all of it was in my head. Writing it down, there was like an externalization of it and made me feel like, okay, this is something I can give distance to that has an objectiveness to it, and it's something beyond me. It's not just inside of me, eating me up.
Now, in your story, you refer to suicide as a monster or the monster. How,
Yes.
when you give it a name, do you feel it helps in a sense of, okay, I'm fighting that monster. I'm going to slay that monster. As I'm reading your story, that's how I took it. I was like, all right, no, I love that idea, but it's like, okay, if something's bothering you, or if something's in your head, so to speak, let's name it and let's make it something, because then it's like, all right, that's the monster again in my ear. That's the monster trying to get me to do something I really don't want to do, and you kind of it becomes a character. And I love that you did that, and I'm curious to know if that was your thinking in doing that,
Um,
or I just make that up and I'm totally
no,
off
I mean
base.
it sounds nice in the end, but to be honest, it really felt like a monster. It like really felt like something that was deep inside of me that just comes out, and um, I'm unable to control, and it becomes this other person. It's not me. It's this something else that I can't um, handle, or I can't grasp. But it's not just me, I guess. I guess it's a way to say like um not giving myself all the blame for the torment that I'm going through.
Now, you didn't have a title on your story.
I
Is
know.
that is no? It's it obviously didn't hurt, but I'm curious. If you were to look back and put a title on your story, um, what would be a good title for this? Because, like I said, I mean, you dive into every aspect of your life, from marriage to, being a single parent to religion. It's such an amazing story. And it might be one of those things that you touch on so many different topics, it's hard to just title it one certain thing. But
Right.
I'm curious to know, like, looking back, I mean, if you were to, have, a title for your story, what would it be?
Oh, wow, that's it's so hard. It's really hard to come up with one. Um I was never good with titles. I guess like one that sticks out is the monster in me,
Hmm.
or beauty behind the struggle, maybe. I
Okay.
don't know. Something about struggle, and
Yeah.
how there's also like a truth behind struggle, and the beauty behind it. Maybe that's something like that. I'm not sure.
Well, I mean, once I saw your name, I just when you see the name Phoenix, you think of rising from the ashes, and
Yes.
it's I've always loved that name, and that was the first thing I saw. I was like, oh, Phoenix, yes, this is awesome, so.
Right.
But yeah, in your story, it's in your untitled story, you write, you talk about self-harm, and I
Right.
just want to touch on that for a moment, because
Yes.
you do write it as, this calm, feeling, washed over you as you
Right.
wrote it. How did you get over that? How did, it was, talk us through, your battle with self-harm, and how you were able to overcome that.
Right. So, when I first started self-harming, I didn't know what function it was doing for me. But then I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, and I subsequently had dialectical dialectical behavior therapy treatment, which helped a lot in terms of building coping skills so you don't have to self harm. And so I literally have images of things happening to me. Um, and I would have to defer them by like holding ice or doing push-ups or taking a walk around the block or calling a friend. And I would just barrage myself with skill upon skill upon skill until the heightened sense or the urge had dissipated. The It was great because it did work eventually, but it was a slower uh slower solution than self-harm. So that was what was really tough. It's like, how do you make sure you have enough willpower to sustain this other kind of coping skill that works eventually than using this self-harm as a solution to your pain. And so I still do it. I get coaching from my therapist about what to utilize when I'm in distress. And yeah, so that's pretty much it.
Yeah, you go through the list of how long this has been for you in 3 decades, 9 hospitalizations, 9 therapists, thousands of hours of therapy, and it's still there. That monster's still there, right? And I'm
Yes.
curious for you, and I know everyone's different.
Right.
What do you look for in a therapist when you find that person that you can connect with? What is it that you're looking for?
I've been thinking about it a lot, and my therapist, she would be the first to tell you that I quit her a couple of times because I guess it's been a rough road, but I always come back to her because she makes me feel safe first and foremost, and um, she could have all the different skills or of being a therapist, but the fact that she wholeheartedly believes in me, it's like she can look at me in the eye and believe in me, and some reason that gives me the faith for me to go on and continue forward. It hasn't been easy, but uh, she's like my backbone.
Yeah, you mentioned after a hospitalization that you started a support group in your basement. How 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 has that been? Are you still doing it? What inspired you to make an impact like that?
So when I was first diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, I realized, and that was the first time I was in the hospital. That was the first time I was in a group setting. And initially, I was so scared to be in a group setting. I had all these preconceived notions from movies and everything else and media of what would happen if I were in a group setting. But I left, and that group like it stayed with me. I had such deep respect for everyone there who was willing to open up their minds and their hearts to share their struggle and how they were committed to getting better. And I was just amazed. And so I was like, well, how can I find this outside? I couldn't find any BPD support group in New York City. And so I decided to make one up. And it was actually in a community center in a basement that we met. Um, but it was maybe like 9 to 15 of us who would sit around and share what we knew about BPD and what we were struggling with. Sometimes people were in pretty bad shape, and I was not a social worker back then. I didn't know what I was doing, but like we helped how we could help. Just we kind of did it as best we could, and I did it I think for 4 or 5 years, and then I always felt a little bit of an imposter. How like I didn't really know what I was doing, and I thought I should get some more training and certifications, things like that. So I let it go. But I would definitely like to pick that up again one time. That would be nice.
As you're writing, you took us. I think this is why your story stood out so much for our judges. You took us on a journey. You started, and we you almost you the way you wrote it and illustrated it in everyone's head. Everyone saw it so clearly because you were so clear in the way that you told your story. And it seemed like as you got older and went through the process, you started finding yourself more. You were married to a man, then you realized you were attracted to women, right?
Right, right,
You talked about religion and maybe the shame that might come with everything that's going on with that.
right.
Was when you're writing this out, and if it was this captivating story where we're all just, oh, what's going to happen next? Like what's she going to tell us next? And it's like we wanted more, you know.
Right.
So I'm curious, through your I mean, do you feel like now that you're starting to find yourself, and um, is it almost like looking at through life in a whole new lens?
Well, it's interesting. I started having suicidal thoughts when I was age 15, and that year I also read this book by Viktor Frankl called Man's Search for Meaning. And there's a quote in there by Friedrich Nietzsche who says, "He who has a why to live can bear with almost any how." And that was my mantra for my whole life, just so I could understand why I was struggling and suffering so much. And so I come to this point now, and after a whole life of trying to find my meaning and my why, and I do kind of, I think I have kind of found my why. My why is my son. That means everything to me. And at the same time, like, all of it, as I pursue my social work or whatever career I have in the future, like, it just comes down to like your relationships and having good relationships with your son, with your friends, with your family, being able to make conversation in a meaningful way for me and provide meaning in my experiences and giving life to them. So it's all, yes, I think it's kind of come full circle, but it doesn't mean that my suicidal thoughts will go away.
Mhm.
I have to live despite those suicidal thoughts, because they're going to keep on coming and I have to keep on pushing forward.
You shared a comment from a doctor saying that if you choose to kill yourself, your son will most likely die by suicide himself.
Yes.
When someone says that to you, what goes through your head?
I was so angry and also so ashamed of myself. I was angry that someone would accuse me of wanting my son to die when my son means the world to me. And at the same time, actually believing that, yes, the reality is if I kill myself, they're going to live with this struggle, a harder struggle than probably what I have gone through. And it's just so heart wrenching. I could not do it after that. And so I vowed to never again try to kill myself. But it's so hard. The illness is so strong inside me. It's hard to um, intellectually say I'm not going to die and actually go through with it when your whole entire being is conspiring against you.
If you were having a conversation with someone who's on the same path as you are, what would you suggest that first stop be, or that first line of help would be?
Well, if it was me who went to this person, I think I would have to be the first line in the sense of I have to again look at them in the eye and say, we're going to get through this together. Let's try to figure out something to help you around this. And then, I don't know, I have this troubled view of hospitalizations. I know for me they're necessary, but I also have a hard time going through them. And I know that for me, medications work, and I would like to see this person see if it would work for them. Um, and then finally, I would hope that they would have a loved one, someone they can trust, someone who they look up to and say, would you mind helping me along this way for whether it be like 3 months or a year, or just to have a mentor of some type to help me get through it, or a therapist. I think therapy is very important. I think it takes a whole system of people to get through to someone living with this kind of debilitating disorder or disease or illness.
What was your experiences like? What was the experience like being hospitalized? I think a lot of folks might feel intimidated by it, or yeah, I don't want to, but were they positive experiences that you had during your hospitalizations? When you left the hospital, did you feel you were in a better place? Was it inconsistent at times? I'm
Yeah.
curious.
I mean, I don't think I maybe have had 8 or 9 hospitalizations altogether, and so they've been a little different each one. Initially, I was very scared. I had no awareness about what hospitalizations did and how they could help you. But initially, they were very accommodating, and I think for the most part, the medication changes helped. And I think what's even more important than that is the time that you spend in the hospital being safe, where you can think about other things besides killing yourself, is really a relief. And I think that having that time to talk to other patients and having time to talk to your doctors and therapists has made a big difference for me. The only issue that I have been going through lately is because I'm transgender, is the gender, um, I don't know how to say it, just confusion around my gender and how to address me, where to put me, what people call me, and it's a little dehumanizing. I say it's very just makes me distraught. But I know that despite that, if I'm there, it's because I'm safe there.
Well, Phoenix, I once again thank you so much for sharing your story. You probably more than you can imagine. Um, you are inspiring so many people with your story, and words can't explain. You're probably better with the words than I am, but words can't explain the impact that you're having on so many people. And I said it earlier in the episode here in our conversation. I want more. We want more from Phoenix, So it's I love to hear that you're studying to become a social worker. You're going to be amazing at that. And once again, congratulations. Thank you so much. And keep making an impact out there, Phoenix, because it is something truly special.
Thank you so much, Chris. I'm very honored to be a part of this project. Thank you.